A quiet neighborhood, a modest home, the kind of place most people would walk past without a second glance. And yet, according to investigators, behind one ordinary front door in Connecticut, a man may have lived a reality few could even imagine. For more than 2 decades, authorities say, he was allegedly held captive inside that house. The details that have emerged are both unsettling and deeply complex. They raise questions not only about what may have happened inside that home, but about how something like this could remain hidden in plain sight for so long. This is the story of a case that has shocked a community, sparked national attention, and left many people searching for answers. It began, as many extraordinary stories do, in the most unremarkable way. The house sat quietly among others like it. Neighbors went about their daily routines. From the outside, nothing appeared out of place according to available information. The man at the center of this case had been living in that home for an extended period of time. Authorities later alleged that he had not been living there freely. Instead, investigators believe he may have been confined against his will, isolated from the outside world for decades. When law enforcement first revealed the allegations, the reaction was immediate. How could someone be held captive for so long, without anyone noticing? How could an entire life unfold behind closed doors, unseen and unheard? Officials have stated that the situation came to light after emergency responders were called to the home for an unrelated matter. It was during that response, according to reports, that concerns began to surface. As authorities looked closer, they allegedly uncovered evidence suggesting that the man's living conditions were far from normal. Public records indicate that he had limited contact with the outside world. Investigators are still piecing together the timeline, but some reports suggest that his isolation may have begun many years ago. What makes this case especially difficult to process is the passage of time, decades. Think about everything that changes in a single year. While the world outside transformed, authorities believe this man's world may have remained confined to a single space, and yet, from the outside, the home did not stand out. Neighbors who later spoke publicly described a quiet property. Some said they rarely saw much activity. Others admitted they had no reason to suspect anything unusual. In many neighborhoods, privacy is respected. Closed curtains and locked doors are not uncommon. It is easy, in hindsight, to look back and wonder if there were signs. But at the time, nothing appeared urgent enough to trigger alarm. That realization has left many people unsettled, because if something like this could allegedly happen there, could it happen elsewhere? Investigators have been careful with their language, emphasizing that the case remains under review. Still, what has been shared publicly paints a picture of prolonged isolation and control. According to statements released by authorities, the man was found in a condition that raised serious concern. Medical evaluations were reportedly conducted, and he was provided immediate care. Officials have focused heavily on ensuring his safety and well-being moving forward in cases involving long-term confinement. Experts often speak about the profound psychological and emotional effects isolation can have on a person. Humans are social by nature. We rely on interaction, on freedom of movement. Deprivation of those basic experiences can alter someone's sense of reality, but every situation is unique. And in this case, much of what truly happened inside that house may only be fully understood through careful investigation and court proceedings. As the story spread, national media outlets picked it up. Headlines referenced captivity, isolation, and survival. Public attention intensified. People wanted details. They wanted explanations. They wanted accountability. Yet beneath the headlines lies a deeply human story. A person who, according to authorities, may have spent a significant portion of his life in conditions No one would willingly choose forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about vulnerability and power, about how control can be exercised quietly, about how silence can stretch across years. Midway through the investigation, another layer of complexity began to surface. Some reports suggest that the man's early life circumstances may have played a role in how events unfolded. While officials have not released every detail, there is growing discussion about family dynamics and how certain patterns, if left unaddressed, can escalate over time. This is where the case shifts from shock to deeper reflection, because stories like this rarely exist in isolation from broader issues. They challenge us to consider whether systems designed to protect people always function as intended. At the same time, the individuals involved have rights under the law, and the full truth will ultimately be determined through official proceedings. Still, the emotional weight of the situation is undeniable. Imagine losing decades of personal freedom. Imagine watching life pass by from a single vantage point, and yet your own environment remains fixed. That concept alone has resonated deeply with audiences following the case. About halfway through the public's attention cycle, interest began to dip slightly, as it often does with breaking news. But then a new development reignited curiosity. Authorities announced additional investigative steps, including interviews and forensic reviews. The case was not closing quietly. It was expanding. That secondary wave of attention brought fresh questions. Were there warning signs missed by institutions? Did anyone attempt to intervene earlier? Could something have been done differently? These are difficult questions. And while it is tempting to search for simple answers, reality is rarely that straightforward. Communities function on trust. We trust that homes are safe spaces. We trust that families operate within healthy boundaries. We trust that if something is seriously wrong, someone will notice, but privacy can also create blind spots. Experts who study long-term confinement cases often point out that such situations are frequently complex. Inside dynamics can be entirely different. As the alleged victim in this case begins the long process of recovery, attention has shifted toward support systems. Medical professionals, counselors, and advocacy groups are reportedly involved in ensuring he receives comprehensive care. Recovery from prolonged isolation is not just physical. It is emotional, psychological, and social. Relearning how to navigate the world after decades away from it is no small task. Consider something as simple as technology. The world today operates on devices, platforms, and systems that did not exist. There is a profound adjustment period that follows circumstances like these. Meanwhile, the legal process continues. Authorities have emphasized that investigations remain active. Charges, if any, will proceed through established judicial channels. Outcomes will be determined by the courts. Throughout this process, it is essential to avoid speculation. Public discourse can sometimes run ahead of verified facts. In high-profile cases, rumors can spread quickly. Responsible reporting and careful analysis are critical to maintaining clarity. What we do know is this: a man was found in a situation authorities considered serious enough to launch a major investigation. He is now receiving support. And a community is grappling with how something so significant could allegedly unfold behind an ordinary facade. Toward the later stages of this story, a more reflective tone has begun to emerge in public conversation. People are not only asking what happened, they are asking how to prevent similar situations in the future. Awareness plays a role. And so does the willingness to check in on those who may seem isolated. Yet prevention is never simple. It requires balance between respecting privacy and recognizing warning signs. It requires resources, training, and coordination across institutions. Cases like this remind us that reality can be far more complex than it appears. At first glance, as investigators continue their work, one thing remains clear. Surviving years of alleged confinement speaks to a strength that many of us can barely comprehend. And that is where this story ultimately leads. Beyond the legal debates, beyond the headlines, beyond the shock value, there is a person rebuilding. A life, a future that now exists outside those walls. About understanding that not every story is visible from the street. In the quiet neighborhoods we pass every day, countless lives unfold. But occasionally, a story emerges that reminds us how much can remain unseen. The Connecticut case is still developing. The courts will determine responsibility. The facts will continue to surface. It leaves us with a final, sobering reflection. Freedom is something many of us take for granted. The ability to step outside, to choose where we go, to speak to whom we wish. When that freedom is allegedly restricted for years, the impact reverberates far beyond one household. As this case moves forward, it serves as a reminder to value awareness, compassion, and due process all at once, because justice requires patience, and understanding requires that we look beyond headlines to the human realities beneath them. If this story made you think, if it raised questions, or reflections you hadn't considered before, I'd love to hear your perspective. Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. Conversations like this matter. If you found this deep dive meaningful, consider liking the video. It helps more people discover thoughtful discussions on complex topics like this one. And if you want to stay informed about developing cases and the human stories behind them, make sure you subscribe to the channel. There's much more to explore together. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and never underestimate how much can exist beyond what we see.